It has been said that His Girl Friday, Howard Hawks' 1940 film, has been responsible for bringing people into journalism in the same way that for a later generation, All the President's Men sort of played that kind of inspirational role. Considering the amount of bad journalistic ethics on display in this film, why do you think that is? Anybody?
Is there a secret to turn this?
I think it's on the bottom, I believe.
On the bottom?
Hello?
There you go.
Am I on?
You're on.
Okay. First of all, I want to know why we have to have a man moderating us.
Hey.
Because it's a lot of fun. I mean, newspapering is fun. It always was. I miss it every day, even though the newsrooms like you see in this movie, you're about to see in this movie, don't exist anymore. It's totally fun. It's adrenaline. It's you get caught up in a group action and you beat your friends and you get celebrated by your friends, and it's amazing.
It did. It makes it very exciting. It makes it glamorous. It's romantic. You know, who doesn't want to find a life partner where they work? But you look at it, and that's what you think you're going to get. And then there's days of boring phone calls for statistics and research that it's like, wait, where's my scoop?
Who doesn't want to be a newspaper man? My dad was a newspaper man. My mother was a newspaper man. When I started at the New York Times, I was called a copy boy. So it's this hard-boiled. They referred to us as boys. Absolutely, it was fabulous and ridiculous. But that hard-boiled, fast-talking, running down the street in your heels, carrying a notebook, running into the police shooting or the fire or whatever it is, it's thrilling. And the thing that you get to do most is you get to have people's stories told to you, and then you get to make them the world's knowledge. You get to put the truth out there. So I think it's the highest form of living there is.
Well, that's a good segue to kind of discuss what's great about Rosalind Russell's character in this, Hildy. What makes her such a remarkable character, and what makes her a good journalist based on the evidence of what we see in the film?
Well, I think it makes her a good journalist is in that scene with Earl in the jail when she gets out of him that phrase, production for use. When she interviews him, lights a cigarette for him, takes it, he doesn't even smoke, but he takes it back. But she brings to it the heart and soul of, she gets the heart and soul of the story out of him. And yet that scene where she's running down the street, where she tackles the police captain, the police chief, I think it is.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a mix of a dame. I mean, that's where we all want to live. Don't you think?
And I think it's her curiosity, her drive. That's, to want to know the truth and to fully report it, that's what you want a journalist, not fame. I mean, you want the headline, you want to be that the reporter who's got the front page story, but if that's all you get, you want to have that curiosity, that drive that she's got.
She's got the drive for fame, too. My favorite scene is when she's writing the story at the end. She's got it all together, and her fiancé is kind of haplessly waiting for her to go off with him, which isn't going to happen. Sorry, is that a spoiler? Anyway.
Oh, geez.
Sorry.
That's right.
You saw the front page.
It's
you know
a free screening.
And she's typing away, and he's trying to get her attention, and she snaps at him. Can't you just tell this is the most important thing that's ever come into my life? Yeah. And I've been there. Yes. You get a story like that, and it's consuming, and all else disappears. I once was working on a project, and I had all the notes. We had finally gotten them, and I'm spreading them out all on the floor. And I was on a maternity leave at the time, and I had the baby who was really tiny on the couch up above me. And I suddenly looked up, and there was the baby on the floor. The child had learned how to roll while I was working on the story. So I recognized that, and it just brought it home, and that's why she gets the stories, because nothing stops her.
Nothing's going to stop her. And you didn't miss your baby rolling, so I'm good with this.
He's fine.
And it wasn't far.
Was your first thought, oh my God, the baby's going to totally mess up my notes?
I'm really sorry to say. I was like, oh God, I'm going to get into trouble for this.
Okay, well, kind of to that point, Lydia and I were talking just before we came up, and she said that she had watched some of the film again, and well, yeah, there was some of it that really pissed her off. And I mean, is there stuff in here, especially about the status of women in the workplace, women particularly in the workplace of a newsroom, that connects with your own experience as women, decades later.
Absolutely. The New York Times newsroom was just a hotbed of sex. And you wouldn't know it to see it in the morning, but whoa. When I was there in the 1970s and 1980s, and so we were called boys, and we were running around in heels and Diane von Furstenberg wrapped dresses. We were not in trousers at that point, and we were not respected until we got that respect earned. But I think for me, the thing I don't like about the movie is the ending. I don't like that she's walking behind him. Damn it, she has earned the first place in that movie. And I find that very, very, very evocative of a lot of the things that I have seen in journalism, which is, you're on the team, gal, go, you're part of here, you carry the typewriter, here, you do that. I think there's still a lot of that goes on. A lot of women sports writers, friends of mine, still get a lot of bullshit in the locker room, guys taking their towels off, and that's just unacceptable. So yeah, I think there's a lot of that is still very much alive and well.
Well, I grew up, my early reporting was right here in Albany, so I could tell you about some of the things that went on in the parking lot of the Times Union.
Please do.
I absolutely do vouch for the sex in the hotbed, but that's like lots of newsrooms.
Right.
The thing is, Hildy fits in here because she's just like one of the guys. She drinks with them, she smokes with them, she out-reports them, she outruns them. She's one of them. And yet there's still that sexism against her. Walter still tells her what to do. And it does bring back memories when in the newsroom, the Knickerbocker News that I worked at, an editor called me Buttons. And that was
Buttons?
because nipples, he would, on a sweater. And that was, I had to take
Holy
it,
cannoli.
No. This was nothing unusual about it.
Yeah.
And so you just, that's really funny, and you give the names back, and then I sent a friend over to threaten him at his doorstep.
There's that line where Cary Grant's telling her, you can't quit, you're a newspaper man.
Right.
And she says, well, I want to go someplace where I can be a woman. And that still, I think to this day, it's hard to balance that family and career as a female journalist. At what point do you take a pause to have a baby and roll over into the notes,
That's true.
And you try to do it all. I mean, I remember producing a newscast while nursing and running a teleprompter for the anchors out in the studio at the same time. So yes, you can do it all, and does it all come out well in the end? I don't know.
That's a movie scene I want to see.
Yeah, it's a great movie scene.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to, that's just it. Sometimes you have to be willing to sit there till 3 a.m. with the guys, the people, the source. The best quote I think I ever got from somebody was at 3 o'clock in the morning in a bar in Queens from a homicide detective. We were trying to figure out if this particular medical examiner was doing his job by, an autopsy should take 5.5 hours. And so I was just trying to establish how long this autopsy that this detective had sat in had actually, witnessed. How long was it? And he said to me, his name was Danny Collins, and he said to me, the autopsy, how long did it take? About the length of time it took to eat a jelly donut. But it was 3 a.m. I mean, it took forever to get to that place where he was willing to talk. If you have a nursing baby, if you're going to, run, you can't run home. You're going to be there until somebody says what you need them to say, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was some things that I saw in the beginning of my career of sexism, like late 80s. I'm tiny on the totem pole at Good Morning America, working in the booking department, and a big vice president talks about the physique of one of the female anchors who had just had a baby and come back. Now, this is a guy who's, a fire plug himself, did not join the hair club for men, so there were a lot of things that he could have looked into. Sorry, Casey.
That's fine.
A lot of things he could have looked into the mirror about himself, but here he is criticizing his main female anchor for not losing baby weight fast enough after she had come back on the air. Okay, so that's 1987, 88, and I thought, okay, well, things are going to change by the time that I get up there. Just a couple of years ago, I had a manager offer me a job from part-time to full-time, only going an extra $5,000 because I was married. And I thought, I either bring value to you or I do not. It's not because I'm married. So you pay me what I am worth and what I bring to you.
Okay, sort of to that point, this is a rare movie, it seems to me, in which a man tries to seduce, romance, or re-seduce or re-romance a woman based primarily on convincing her that she is great at her job and being with him is synonymous with being in journalism. And that's very different from so many Hollywood screwball romances or straight romances for that matter, where it seems as if domesticity is what is being kind of dangled out there. I mean, is that kind of revolutionary?
You're so beautiful.
In a way?
Love me, because I appreciate your beauty. That's in a lot. I love this question because Casey and I have been exchanging some notes on it. Like, what's another movie where a man tries to get into a woman's pants, to put it bluntly, by saying you're really good at your job? So I thought of Pretty Woman at first. But the job is...
No problem with that one.
Yeah. So we decided that didn't count. But The Paper. Has anyone seen that with Michael Keaton?
Yep.
And Marissa Tomei? And she's like hugely pregnant in it, but they're chasing down a story. And at one point she gets it, that moment when you get the piece of information that you've been looking for, and she calls him on the phone, and they're just like so inspired and so hot. That's the same thing. They were, and it was a very similar relationship to here, that he is her editor. And the Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn movies, they're lawyers together in one movie.
Right.
They compete and yet drive each other. And so those are the only pairings I could think of.
Yeah, Adam's Rib, the Tracy Hepburn movie, but in Woman of the Year, she really gets beaten down for being as good as she is. So I think it's a great question. And I think that's why we love this movie so much, is that she's good.
She's equal. She's equal to
good.
him in every
she's
way.
Better.
Yeah.
She's better than everybody all the time in everything she does. And that is a wonderful, wonderful role model for women.
This may be out of left field, but I thought of, what's it called? I think What a Woman Wants, the Mel Gibson movie, but The Only Way, and he got Helen Hunt at the end, got her job back, even though he got her fired, but it was because the blow dryer fell in the bathtub and he got the ability to hear what women want, so he was cheating.
Yeah, that's a good one too. That's a good one. Yeah.
Okay, to that point, is Walter Burns, Cary Grant's character, is he a good editor or a terrible editor, or a little bit of both, perhaps?
He's a terrible man, but a great editor. I'd like to be him. He constantly figures out what both sources and his reporters need, and he makes sure they get them. Sometimes he has to cheat them and make them think they're getting it when they're not, but he responds to that. He has a total sense of news. At the very beginning, he knows what he has to get out of that, out of Earl. He needs a picture and front page, that's the whole thing, and here too. And he needs the interview. He knows totally what to get. He's fearless. I think he's great. He knows what a good story is.
It's
good editor.
The lying got to me.
Yeah.
Somewhat
problematic.
Yes, but when she was getting, what was it, when she was in Vegas getting the divorce, he hired a plane to skywrite "Remember My Dimple"? Was it?
Hildy, don't be hasty.
So there's a romantic in him.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, he's a great editor.
Well, then he looks like Cary Grant, too.
And then there's the way his clothes fit on him, as we like to say euphemistically, where he wears his hat.
Yes.
One scene where they're in the restaurant with she's lighting her cigarette. He takes her hand, lights his own cigarette first.
As she is moving the match towards, and it's a GIF. I found it and I put it on Twitter. You guys follow me on Twitter? No, you have? Huh? No, okay.
I do.
But it's just a wonderful motion. It's so fluid, it's so great. Film historians say that Rosalind Russell was offered this role after a half dozen bigger stars than her at that point turned it down, and the list includes Katharine Hepburn, Claudette Colbert, Jean Arthur, Irene Dunne. That only then did it come to Rosalind Russell, which she was kind of cranky about while the movie was getting made. I think it's
she
probably
said, "You're stuck with me."
It's the one that I would probably I would imagine it's probably the lead in her obit, either that or Mame, most likely. And I mean, why do you think if you were Claudette Colbert, why would you turn this role down? You're working with Howard Hawks, who is a guy who had a string of hits. I think the last 3 years he's had one hit after another. You're working with Cary Grant, for goodness sake. Why would you turn it down? Can you imagine?
Okay, here's my theory.
Yeah.
Claudette Colbert is like my size. She's tiny, little, and quiet. And then there's Rosalind Russell, who's built like these two ladies, tall and brassy and beautiful and loud, and the physicality of that role totally suited her. Rosalind Russell, it's hard to imagine any of the other women in it. And she did have comedic timing, and she did have the brass for it. When she walks, the initial scene that you'll soon see, she goes strutting through that newsroom.
It's great. The opening scene is fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. And she's got the most ridiculous hat you've ever seen. And yet, it works. Somehow she makes it work. I don't think Claudette Colbert, who I love, I don't think she could have pulled that off. And Carol Lombard, same thing. She's slight and tiny. I think Rosalind Russell knew she could do it. And then she did all these brave things like there's a lot of ad-libbing on the scene, and Cary Grant is really good at that, and so are the other players, and she was not good at it at all. So she hired somebody to write ad-libs for her, and she threw in the zingers all through it. And when Hawks, the producer, was kind of dissing her, she just went up to him very Hildy-like and said, "Look, you're stuck with me, so make the most of it." And she did, and she earned the respect. So she really kind of worked into the role. I'm glad the other ones turned it down.
Me too.
That's what I liked about her drive personally and in the character. The fact that she knew that she wasn't, able to keep up with the ad-libbing. I'm going to get the tools that I need, and I'm going to be here right with you guys, too, and competing.
Right.
Yeah, and I think reporting is perceived as a sort of grungy job. Everybody wants to think they can do it, but I think some of them, my theory is that some of them might have just thought it wouldn't be very romantic, when of course it's marvelously romantic, because it's her power that makes her so attractive.
I just remembered that I referred to Lydia as being brassy in a column I wrote one time.
Did you? How'd that go?
It was good.
I think I can't remember which Italian actress you once called me.
Did I?
Yes.
That'll be another screening discussion we have.
All right.
Okay, finally. This movie contains some of the most vicious, world-class ranking on the city of Albany of any movie I've ever seen. Every time a subsequent movie or TV show, any time one of the cops on Law and Order mentions Albany and makes a face, it is His Girl Friday, I believe, that we owe it to. Does anybody want to make a defense of Albany against His Girl Friday at this point?
No.
No, and Ben Heck, didn't he report in Chicago? So why couldn't they beat up on Chicago?
The original. I mean, it was originally the front page, Ben Hecht, and then Charles Lederer rewrote it and did the gender switching. And I don't believe in the initial versions it was New York versus Albany. It was probably Chicago versus, who knows, Springfield.
Albany's not in the original. We just watched the front page. That got switched too. I thought it was funny. I'm an Albany native, so I get to say it. It's 24 degrees out there. The wind is howling.
Yeah, tonight
you
is
want
not a
us
good
to
night
say
to
nice
defend
things
Albany,
about
I
it?
guess
Oh, the
you're right.
tulips are nice. Wait 5 months.
Yeah. Nobody else? Oh, man.
It worked for the comedy.
All right, well, that's all I've got. Any last thoughts? This was terrific. Have we spoken for about 25 minutes? Are we good? Yeah?
On with the show.
Dead on it. All right, well, thanks very much, Rosemary Armao,
Thank you.
Lydia
Thank you,
Kulbida,
Casey.
and Marion Roach Smith. Really appreciate it.